The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you ready for Insights to Incite? Ready or not, it's showtime. Now get ready to listen in and watch right here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Join us and together we will escape the mundane. Insights to Incite, here is your host, Brandon Lawson.
I learned that who doesn't look for you doesn't miss you, and who doesn't miss you doesn't care for you. That destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. That the truth hurts only once and a lie every time you remember it. There are three things in life that leave and never return: words, time, and opportunities. Therefore, value whoever values you, and don't treat as a priority whoever treats you as an option. This is Brandon Lawson coming to you from my home here in Ohio. Today is Thursday, June 3rd. And today, I want to speak with you about priorities. And as we get into our lesson, we're going to speak about priorities, and also wrapped up therein is the concept of how time and respect plays a part in this. We are in our series titled Matters That Matter, and this is lesson 9. And so today I'm going to speak with you in regards to that. And I have to ask you, how many of you have heard one or more of the following? Yeah, I'll let you know when I'm available. No, not today. Actually, tomorrow won't work either. Nor, actually, I don't see how I can do anything for the next 2 weeks. No, not this week or next. Actually, it doesn't look like I'll be able to be available until at some point toward the middle or latter part of next month. Well, I really don't have time. Just friend me on Facebook. Does any of those sound familiar? I'm sure we've heard them. You've heard them your fair share of times as well. But with that being said, what's the common theme mentioned in all those remarks? It involves time, or basically them saying they don't have the time. And behind those remarks, what else do we see within that? You could say respect, or a lack thereof. They don't respect you, or even if they truly are busy and they can't get to you right away, and it's not a matter of respect. Certainly, that what it does speak of is they have not made you a priority. Otherwise, they would find a way to make that time and wouldn't put you on the back burner. Friends, consider these quotes. I want to read from you. This comes from the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu said, "Time is a created thing. To say, I don't have time, is to say, I don't want to." Haven't you found that true? I mean, if you really want to, if it's something you want to do, you'll find a way to carve out time. We all have the same amount of time every day. I mean, that's why Albert Einstein said that time management is an oxymoron. We all only have 24 hours in a day. It's really about task management, and also within there is prioritizing. What is a priority to you? And consider this one. It says, if it is important to you, you will find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. Don't you find that to be very true? As I just got done saying, if we really want to, we will find a way. We can always find an excuse. There's always something that can be made up. So now considering that, Look, no, let's look at this one here. When we think of respect, and that, I like how it was Lawrence Stern who said, "Respect for ourselves guides our morals. Respect for others guides our manners." Friends, as we think of this, whatever it is you give your time to, whatever it is I give my time to, in effect, whatever we give our time to, whether it be, your golf game, it could be the television, it could be hanging out with your girls, getting together with them, whatever it is, in effect, what we are telling them is we are saying, I value you. I respect you. I have chosen to be with you. I, in fact, love you. That is the very reason I chose you. And as we consider this, we can see it's pretty easy to see this truth, how whatever we give ourselves to, especially when we freely give of ourselves without any request to do so, whatever it is that we are giving ourselves to, that person, that thing, that activity, that we do indeed value them. We, in effect, esteem them in our heart. We do respect them. And you could see when you respect them, you revere them in your heart. And you've chosen them. And in effect, it's like you've claimed them. They're your choice. You've chosen them out of whatever else you could have done. You've claimed them. And you indeed love them. And that's in you giving them your time and making time for them, are in effect being loyal to them. And with that said, what is it that you regularly give yourself to? I mean, most of the people, who, are of age today are working. Yeah, there's some unemployed or might just be retired or stay at home. But those of you who do go to work, when you come home from work, where is it you go? What do you do? What is your routine? Maybe you're a high school student and you're watching this, or in college. Maybe you're out for the year now. There's a lot of schools around this area have since let out. But when you come home from school, do you go straight to the computer and play video games, computer games, or hop on Facebook? No. What is it that you give yourself to? You see, how we spend ourselves, it speaks to what it is that's important to us. And do you see yourself spending hours upon hours in front of the TV? I mean, that is a huge thing in America. In other countries, on that, or even certain religions, it's probably not nearly as important. But in America, we spend a lot of time in front of the tube. We spend a lot of time on the internet. We spend a lot of time on our phones. And when we do so, we are saying to the others around us that whatever it is we're giving ourselves to is more important than them. And sadly, this happens way too much within households that have full families. You come home from work, from school, and you're tied to the tube. You give yourself to something that doesn't include anybody there in the house. It's just a way to please your fancies, do what you want. But in doing so, you don't include anyone there. It's like they're not even there. Do you see the message that this sends? The message you convey to those around you? Friends, I looked up some numbers here, some statistics that may help put this in perspective. When it comes to these three categories that I just spoke of, talking about television and also internet and video games. Well, based on some facts that I found, this first one came out in March of this year. It says that on average, so there's some that do way more, some that do plenty less. On average, Americans watch TV roughly 19 and a quarter hours a week. We spend watching TV, so almost a full day if we went around the clock. Not quite, but pretty close to it. When we look at the internet, it's not much further behind. It's more than 18 hours a week we spend on the internet. And then video games. This one I didn't get so much about the time. It wasn't real clear. I couldn't find an exact statistic or even anything that really spoke to that. The ones I saw was from 2017, 2018, when it came to time on video games. But I did see that just on smartphones alone, the video games played and the money spent with that is 79 billion. And then if you go to console games such as your PlayStations or whatever kind of console game you have, it's 49.2 billion. And that's just in America. That's not worldwide. So, to some extent, we may not be too surprised when we talk about a nation. That's a lot of households, in our nation here in the U.S. But still, to think that we give that much of our time and that much of our wallet to that. And let's consider a fourth category. This has to do with TV as well, but it's about more on the monetary side, just like the video games I shared there. But it's been said in America, the average household spends more than $2,600 a year on cable TV. So what's that say about our priorities? I mean, this might be something that you would want to take inventory of your own household, and how you spend your time, how you spend your money. It's obviously your call. But have you ever considered what we would do if we didn't have access to any of these? I mean, some of the millennials, as they refer to them as, that age group within our population, some of them may not know how to go about life from day to day if all these electronic and technology and all these different devices and stuff were stripped from them. They wouldn't have to be put in any kind of lockdown to feel like they're being imprisoned just by the mere fact that all this was taken away. Could they survive? Sure, they could. But how they would go about doing it? Many of them just can't imagine, I'm sure. Or if they had to think hard and long enough, I'm sure they could come up with stuff, but they just are not accustomed to a world without these very things that in many countries would be considered a luxury. They're almost seen as something that we're entitled to here. And it's caused a very unpleasant way of how we are, our behaviors, our personalities, how we go about life, and specifically how we are toward others. We tend to replace others with things. So what would you do if you didn't have any of these? Friends, I've put together, I've just listed 4 things here, but I think that these would be elevated they would become more of a priority in our lives if we didn't have all the other. Too many times, the more we have, the more it clouds and construes, and it gets in the way to where we give less and less of our time to things that should truly matter. The first one I mentioned is I believe we'd have more family time. And not just having more time with family, but I really believe that families would be more closely knitted together. I mean, you think of families in America today, they got so much going on that they're hardly together. Seems like, you know, you got your son, he plays soccer. This one plays baseball. Then your daughter, she's in Girl Scouts. Then your other daughter's in cheerleading. And then that same daughter in Girl Scouts also plays volleyball. Then the same son that plays soccer also is in Boy Scouts. And then they want to get together with friends when they're not in some of their extracurricular activities. They make another activity with friends to do things with them. And to be asked to stay home with family is like, what? I mean, they get bent out of shape. They're really upset over it. They feel like you're restricting them. And next thing you know, you're not even a family. You're not a unit. You're running this one over here tonight, that one there, that one there. Ask yourselves, any of you that have, say, a family that has 3 or more children, when is the last all of you have ate together as a family? When have you shared supper together at the dinner table? I mean, you could have been home, all of you were there, but if 2 of the sons, or even just one of them, went to their bedroom and watched it in front of the tube, you still didn't eat together. When have you come around the table, all of you, shared a meal, shared conversations, fellowship? I'm sure some of you do that more than others, but many of the households throughout America, they probably couldn't put their finger on the last time they did it. It's almost unheard of. But I believe if we had, TV taken away, if we had our phones taken away, if we didn't have the video games, the computer games, didn't have the internet, I think that we would elevate family time. And our families would be much closer. We would have a much closer relationship and actually, find each other to be of great value. Too many times in America today, especially among siblings, they see one another as, you're in my way. You're a burden. You're a distraction. Now what do you want? And that should not be. The second thing I believe we would find, if we had all these taken away from us is, we may take more trips together. And this doesn't necessarily mean a full-fledged vacation because, we'd have more money, most definitely. I mean, at the same time, we may only be able to afford so many vacations, but maybe it's, over the weekend, you just go out of town somewhere together. But again, you would do more together. And what you would find over the course of time is you would create more of and you would create better memories. Memories are made of shared experiences. Now, if you didn't have all these extra things you could do, if you didn't have all this, then you may take more family trips, go places together. I know back, probably 1-2 generations ago, maybe at least one generation before me, it was not all that uncommon for families to go away on the weekend, or maybe it's just on Saturday they'd go somewhere. They would spend the day away, and sometimes they would go and they would actually visit others that are less fortunate. It was a more common practice, years back, maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago or so, for parents to take their children to hospitals where they would see some kids and just give their own children an education about, help them to experience firsthand how good they have it when they see the state of these other children. It would give them a greater appreciation for life. They would often have a greater respect for their parents, and be grateful, could say even to God, that they're not in the state that they see these other kids in. Or sometimes it wasn't kids they visited. It could have been a hospital that had adults as well. But they gained a greater appreciation for life when they got to see that. And they found it very educational, and the smile of a child has a way of warming others. And when they see that they warmed the heart of that person in the hospital bed, that warmed their heart. And they, in turn, not only had a greater appreciation for life, but you can see within that how they actually found it to be a good thing to bless others. And doing little things like that over time, it may not be such a outlandish thought for them to do it on their own, to bless someone they see who's hurting, to go up to someone, come alongside them, and to be that encourager. But today, kids, many are good, and they're all good in their own way. But when it comes to caring about others, many of them are selfish. And I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but this is a fact. Do we want to continue to raise selfish, children, or want to raise people that grow up to be selfish adults that could care less if they step on you, that they harm you? In light of that, as you think of that, because there's a lot of people in our world that will gladly step on you and harm you. They don't really have any feelings one way or another if they do so. Well, with that being said, I want to share this quote with you. It said, where's it at here? My bad. Some people, they have a way of putting another person's light out. They think it's fun when they can darken the world of another. And within that said, I like what James Keller points out. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. And so for you to light someone else's life, you lose nothing. If anything, you might even gain a brighter light. But as you think of a candle, and you think of a birthday. You have a birthday and you have this cake. And many times there's more than one candle on there. And most of us, or at least many of us, will light that first candle. Then we pick up that candle and we light the others each with it. And that candle we started with still has its flame. When we light another person's candle, we lose nothing. And so you can see how family time, taking trips together, doing things, you can actually teach life lessons and help your kids to be better citizens. And really it helps you as the parent to be a better adult. And many times when we don't teach certain things, we even lose sight of them. You look at the schools, they took God out of the schools. And now you hear of teachers doing some of the most hideous junk you can imagine. And you would think that they didn't need it. It's the kids that need those. But really, the teachers need it as well, because the teachers don't hold themselves to the same standard when that's not there. And us, if we don't teach these things, over time, almost by default, these certain values and ways of living that are upright, that are good, will fall off our radar. Next thing you know, we'll be doing things we know we shouldn't. Spending time with one another, making family time, making family a unit, not 8 different pieces of a pie, but you're all one pie, you're one piece, you're one unit. Will do you wonders. Will do your children wonders. You'll find many, many blessings to rise up from it. The third thing I believe that we would do more of, if TV, internet, video games, computer games, all that was stripped of us, the third thing is we would help others. We would make it more of a priority. We wouldn't be so consumed that we didn't have enough time, and we would actually learn just how fun it can be, how fulfilling it is to make a difference in other people's lives. And we'd want to do it more. That would become more of a natural way of life. We wouldn't be so bent on, well, I want to do this. I want. I. We would want to include others, bring others in. We'd want to reach out to help, to show them they matter. And that's at the heart of what this lesson is about. Priorities, but wrapped up in the priorities is the time and respect that when we show others, when we make others a priority, we need to give them time. You cannot give someone whatever's left over and expect them to feel good. I mean, how do you feel when someone says, I don't have the time, but if I can find some time, or if I have any time left, I'll come to you, or I'll get in touch with you. And then say they do every once in a great while, they manage to have a little bit of time and they do get in touch. Well, is that time something you really find very valuable? Is it a, quality time? In many respects, it is not. Simply from the mere basis of how we don't want to feel like, we only get the leftovers. We can't be another person's priority all the time, but we don't want to feel like we're, we don't matter, that we can be dropped in the ditch, and if they have some time, they'll come by later to pull us up out of it. None of us want that. We don't feel valued, let alone respected. When people treat us as we're second fiddle, we don't really matter. We're, who cares if we have any time with you or not? You don't feel valued. And as a result, what little time you get is tainted. It's already tainted because of how you've been treated and how you, in effect, have been told you don't matter much at all. So we would help others. We would make it a point to be an instrument of light to others. We'd be that instrument of light, that instrument of love, that instrument of life, speaking life in others and helping them to know, to experience a life they never had, they never yet experienced. That would be something that is so natural, so common. And think of how that would spread, like a spark that turns into a fire, then turns into wildfire and carries on and on. Can you imagine the impact that we could have on one another, and how this world, we would turn it upside down for the better instead of being turned upside down for the worse, as it happens so often. And within those three things of doing these and having more family time together, taking trips together, and helping others, we would find that we would actually be living a more adventurous life, a more adventurous life of intelligence and appreciation. Yet, too often, we're bent on, that TV show, whether it's that primetime drama episode you want to see, or that, sports game your favorite team's on, you can't miss it, or your soap operas. If you're not going to be there, you got to get them recorded on DVR. or you spend countless hours surfing the internet, playing your favorite video games. Never mind you, much of those video games are flat out evil. They teach your kids, and even if they're not children anymore, even if they are adults, they teach people some of the most rottenest things you can have going into your brain, into your heart, into your mind. Yet, that's what you do. That's what you fill your heart with. You let your mind be consumed by that garbage. And then you wonder why, there's trouble in this world. We're divided. No one cares about the other. I mean, it starts in the home. And right here is at the heart of what goes on, how a lot of things spill over to be the way we don't want them to be, because we fail in these respects. We don't do this. We don't make time for others, all because of something that was at first a luxury. And like I said, in many countries, it still is a luxury. Today, to us, it's almost like you're poverty stricken if you don't have any of these, But when they first came out, they were like, wow, this was great stuff. But what is great, or what was great, has led to many things that are anything but great, because we've allowed them to rule our lives. When will we take our lives back? When will we lead our lives instead of our lives leading us? That's a question that each one of us has to answer. You cannot answer that for me. I cannot answer that for you. What will it be? Friends, ponder that over. Think about that. We're going to step away to our first commercial break, and we'll be back in just a few.
Wow, that was insightful. Stay tuned as we go on a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Insights to Incite right here on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Are you seeking a speaker or coach who speaks life into your people? If so, look no further. Brandon Lawson is one who will inspire and motivate his audience, as well as empathize and relate to all. Reach out to Brandon and let him be your speaker and life coach by sending an email to brandon@connectandimpact.net or calling him at 513-520-7597. Brandon looks forward to speaking with you, to you, and for you. Let's connect and impact today. Insights to Incite, a real show with real-life messages. This show, which can be found on radio, TV, and our podcast, gives us insight to incite us to action and to excellence. Watch and or listen to Insights to Incite live at noon Eastern Time every Thursday on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Check out our past episodes on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Join us each week, and together we will escape the mundane. We are back with more Insights to Incite, so get ready and tune in to listen and watch. Now, once again, let's join Brandon Lawson.
So, as we think of this and making room for others, giving them our time, making people more of a priority than we do games or TV or movies or sports or some activity where it feeds ourselves, seeing how we can include others. As we consider this, while we want to give more time to others, time is valuable. In fact, Ralph Waldo Emerson, hints at just how valuable it is. And in many cases, it's been said to be one of the most precious, and some might even say priceless, possessions we have. As that quote I read earlier said, our time, our words, and our opportunity are three things that we can never take back. And I want to share with you what Ralph Waldo Emerson says in this respect. Emerson said, "Guard well your spare moments. They are like uncut diamonds. Discard them, and their value will never be known. Improve them, and they will become the brightest gems in a useful life. So, if we're to guard our spare moments, does that mean that they're ours and never to include others? No, I don't believe that's the message being conveyed here. Do I know what Emerson was thinking when he wrote those? No, I don't. But I don't believe that, if we're to guard them means that nobody else is to have them. In fact, guarding them, when I think of guarding something, it's because you don't want it to be wasted, or you don't want it to be intruded upon by something that, is trivial. Well, we don't want to give our heart to something that would in turn we later regret. Well, these things of TV, internet, cable or satellite, video games, stuff like that. I mean, there are some good things you can learn. Internet can be good or bad. TV, there may be a little bit of good. I can't tell you there's much there. I mean, if you find good programming, that teaches better stuff, perhaps, but a lot of it is not good, really, just being honest. But with that said, a lot of what you find in these categories of stuff are trivial. How much time should we give? Well, I'm not to tell you what you should do or how much time you should devote to any specific category of life. That's not my say. I'm not in that position. But while you may not know exactly how much time you should give, maybe something to ask yourself is, do I want to look back on life and see that I've hardly lived, that I've given myself to the TV, that I've played video games, that I've spent half of my life surfing the internet? Is that the memories you want to have? I mean, is that the life you will count as a life you want to remember when you look back years later? Friends, we all need to value our time. Time is indeed valuable. And the scripture also speaks to this. And I'm going to read from the scripture in just a minute. But knowing that time is important and that we cannot reclaim it, why would you want to waste it on these trivial pursuits? Now, me personally, I don't think I want to. I don't know, exactly how much time I spend watching TV each week. There's some days I watch very little, some days I watch more of it. But I can tell you, the internet, there's some days I don't even get on it. And there's certain things I've done to try to cut out certain parts of my life, or to make, to limit them, or to make something more of a priority. And I shared this a while back on one of the shows, but I used to write in my day-to-day agenda that I typically will write out the day before. I would put 2B. And those were two things that I would be intentional about being. It's not anything that I didn't know I should be, but I would make it more of a priority to be these two different things. And that could be to be, an encourager. And within that, I would have something for me to do to compliment two people that I see today, or that I see that next day. Then there would also be, could be to be generous in some way. And it might be, I know I'm going to be out and about and I'm going to run through the drive-thru, and I'll decide in advance. I'll pay for the car behind me as well. Whatever it may be. I find something a practical way to carry out those 2B things. Then when it came to things to limit or for the day abstain from, it would be to know, and that was NO. These are two things that I will not do or not have or not give myself to for that day. Could be no internet. Could be no sweets. It could be no television. It could be no negative thoughts, but things that would be good for me to train myself, to limit or to cancel out. What is it that you might want to do? Think of how you can prioritize, how you can be intentional. What two things might you be? Might you focus on being? And what two things might you cancel out that you have none of? What are your to be's and to no's? I want to read from you from the book of Ephesians. I'm going to be turning there. We turn into chapter 5. Starting in verse 15. Pay careful attention then to how you walk, not as unwise people, but as wise, making the most of the time because the days are evil. So don't be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. And don't get drunk with wine, which leads to reckless actions, but be filled by the Spirit, speaking to one another in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, singing and making music from your heart to the Lord, giving thanks always for everything to God the Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, submitting to one another in the fear of Christ. So we're to make the most of our time. Some translations say to redeem the time, making the most of every opportunity. And you see at the end, submitting ourselves to one another out of reverence, out of the fear of Christ. And as we make time for one another, as we make each other a priority, we show them respect. And one of the ways you do that is you submit to them. It doesn't mean that you're under their lordship and they're going to rule over you. It could be as simple as giving preference to the other. That's spoken of in Romans 12, actually. It talks about giving preference to the other, where it's not all about me, myself, and I. You get together and you just want to decide what to do. And rather than, even if you're asked what you want to do, you say, oh, I'm open to various things. What do you want to do? You put the question back to them. You want to make it more about them and not be all about me. And within that, in Romans 12, starting in verse 9, it says, love must be without hypocrisy. Detest evil. Cling to what is good. Show family affection to one another with brotherly love. Outdo one another in showing honor. And do not lack diligence. Be fervent in the spirit. Serve the Lord. Then it goes on. But that verse 10, show family affection to one another with brotherly love. That verse there, in some translations, talks about giving preference to one another. But not, again, it's not about me, making it more about them. It's been said that a boar talks to you about it, speaks all about himself. An egotist talks to you all about others, where a great conversationalist encourages you to talk about yourself. We divert to them. We give them the preference. We make them a priority. We remain under. That's that term submission. You think of the term submission or sub, just like a submarine is a ship that floats underwater. To subpar is to be beneath. You give preference by lifting others. So, where is your heart? What will you do? How will you give preference to another? Where will you take the back seat? How will you revere others, show them respect, make them a priority? Friends, where we give our time, where we give our money, that's where our treasure is. And that is where our heart is. Matthew 6:21 tells us, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." What do you treasure? Do you need to change your priorities? Do you need to put others in there? No, do you need to maybe there's people that are in your life, but they've been playing second fiddle. Put them in the back seat, throw them to the back burner, and told them you'll get to them later. Maybe when you come home from work, you husbands need to go straight to your wife and kiss her. Let her know you love her, and tell her how much you appreciate her. And don't just do it in terms of the motions, but be happy to see her. That spirit needs to be behind it. Your words, your actions don't mean a whole bunch if it's done begrudgingly or it's got this drudgery about you. Be happy to be with them. Be glad to make room in your life for others, to give them priority, to elevate them in your heart. Elevate them inwardly as well as outwardly. Once you elevate them in your heart, you will find a way to make room for them outwardly, to do things together, to be more unified, to show love, to show respect. Will you be that? I know we can. The only question is, will we? Friends, this is Brandon Lawson. This concludes our show for today, and we'll be back next Thursday, June 10th, as we get into another lesson in our series, Matters That Matter. Thank you for joining us.
Wow, what an insightful show. Thanks for listening in and watching today. If you missed any part of today's show or any other episode, check it out on iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to your podcast. Now take today's insight and utilize it. Incite yourself to action and to excellence in the week ahead, and join us again next Thursday and every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Time for another insightful session with Brandon Lawson as he speaks to us and shares some more insights to incite right here on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV.